all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never fails, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. I skip down to verse number 13. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three. But the greatest of these is charity. Amen. We are continuing to work on this and work in this subject of marriage. This is the month that has been consecrated for this purpose, and we want to use for our subject, if you will, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, old neighbor. Today's message is entitled The Sonny and Cher Syndrome. Amen. Tell somebody else, the Sonny and Cher Syndrome. The Sonny and Cher Syndrome. Thank you, ushers. The grass withers and the flower fades away, but the word of our God, it shall abide forever. The Sonny and Cher Syndrome. Many of you who have a little age on you ought to have some type of or some form of identification with those two names I mentioned, Sonny and Cher. If you've been around or at an age where you were able to understand what was going on back in the late 1960s and the early 70s, you would have been familiar with an entertainment couple by the name of Sonny and Cher. They were a very popular couple, as I mentioned, back in the late 1960s as well as the early 1970s. They were known for a number of very popular songs. There was even a time period in their life where not only were they known as singers, but they even had their own television show. It was pretty much a mixture of singing as well as comedy. But as I prepared for this message and as I thought about this subject of marriage, for some strange reason, these two individuals presented themselves from my memory to my present thinking. They came up in my mind, and what came up in my mind was the image that I saw as a little child. I was very young back then. I was born in 1969, but those shows were played on television in the early 70s. And I can remember in my mind the image of watching on television. Back then they had, I think it was black and white TV. Amen. I remember even on that black and white television, a little small screen that we used to have in our living room and in our bedroom, there was an image of a man and a woman. And one of the songs that stands out in my mind that they were singing was a very popular song that was called I Got You, Baby. Y'all remember that? I wish I could go back in time and see how y'all used to look back when they were doing that. Some of y'all wasn't here, but some of y'all was here. I'm going to put it like that. Everybody was not absent. But that image in my mind. And as a little child, I really did not understand the meaning of what marriage was. I didn't understand how valuable marriage was. But just from looking at those two people on television, they came across to me. And they presented themselves to me as two people who really love one another. It seemed inseparable. I mean, you know, Sonny and Cher seemed like they were inseparable. And the way they sung that song, you know, I got you, babe. And they were doing their thing. I got you. Amen. And I would imagine that married couples all across America identified with that song and perhaps even sung it to one another. The person who you love. Maybe you sung a verse or two, Brother Matthews. I got you, baby. I got you. And the lyrics of the song talked about how they might have gone through different things in life, but no, it did not matter what they went through as long as they knew that they had one another. It looked like, in my mind as a little child, it looked like that these two people were in a relationship that would last forever. They were married in 1969. Sonny was a little bit older than Cher. He married her and met her when she was 16 years old. They grew up together. They grew in time together, and they got married in 69. But I think it was in the early 70s, I think around 1975, that if I'm correct, that these two people that looked like they were going to be together forever on that TV screen, these two people who sung "I Got You, Babe" to one another ended up in divorce. Last week we dealt with this subject of what happens after the wedding, and nobody would ever think that two people who love one another, sing to one another, and spend time with one another all the time would end up with the end of their story being, and they were divorced. Now, Pastor, why are you bringing this up? I want to share this. There are many people, much like Sonny and Cher, that have started out in relationships, amen, like bees and honey, like fire and wood, like gasoline and a match, amen. But somehow over the process of time, their story has ended up much like Sonny and Cher, and they were divorced. Well, not only, and they were divorced, but there are a lot of people who, amen, if they were honest, maybe their story does not end as Sonny and Cher's has ended, but you know what? If it was not for what we thought people would say about us, if it was not our concern about what people would think of us, there are a whole lot of people that would have gotten out of relationships a long time ago because they ain't happy. Amen. I've labeled this as Sonny and Cher syndrome because much like Sonny and Cher, if we're not careful, the same thing that happened to them, it can easily repeat itself over and over and over again. And I found out that it's not just people outside the church, but I'm going to tell you something. People outside of the church ain't the only ones that are going through marital challenges. And I told you last week, there's no need to hold your head down because you're going through trouble in your marriage. I told you last week that there are no perfect marriages. If walls could talk, the walls would say right now, you better listen to what the pastor is saying. Because y'all need it real bad. I'm tired of watching y'all argue day in, day out. Y'all need to listen to what the preacher is saying today. If walls could talk. Actually, neighbor, what would your wall say? Not only arguing, but they would say that y'all need to get the fire back burning in your relationship. Y'all used to have it going on up in here, but now it's cold up in here. Used to be a time I had to cover my eyes, even though I'm on the wall.